Don't be confused anymore with French pronunciation. We've made it so simple for you and put it all in a DVD. Now, watch excerpts from this stunning DVD available at efrenchlearning.com. When finished with this presentation, you can master French pronunciation with this new DVD. Learn more at efrenchlearning.com or just click at the link below the video on your YouTube screen. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
French pronunciation. The French vowels. Leçon 9. O. Articulation of O. When we pronounce O, the tip of the tongue stays behind the lower teeth. The back of the tongue is raised. The lips are rounded tightly and slightly protruded. We do not move the tongue or the jaw during the articulation. Répétez. O. 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 Bravo. Orthographic representations for O. There are 4 orthographic representations for O. First, simply the letter O. Répétez. Loto. Zone. Numéro. Moto. Robot. The letter O with accent circonflexe is pronounced O. The accent does not change the pronunciation significantly. Répétez. Allô? Pôle. Rôle. The group of letters A, U is also pronounced O. We do not hear A or U. Cause. Chaud. Sauce. Aujourd'hui. The last representation for this sound is the group of letters E, A, U. Répétez. Beau. Tableau. L'automobile. You may want to read those words again one more time before moving on. Lecture. From now on, all the letters pronounced O are in red. Répétez. Les chaussures. Le bureau. Voici un château. C'est un vieux château. Des roses. L'oiseau. Les journaux. Le journal. Un beau panorama. Lecture. Odile habite dans un beau château. Près de l'océan. Elle a un chauffeur. Trois automobiles. Un vélo jaune. Et 2 chevaux.
Apprendre le français pour les débutants.
تعلم اللغة الفرنسية للمبتدئين.
Le téléphone. Le téléphone. Le téléphone. La servante. La servante. Les épices. Les épices. Les épices. La question. La question. La question. Le vin. Le vin. Le vin. Le froid. Le froid. Le froid. L'homme, vieux. L'homme, vieux. La petite fille. La petite fille. La petite fille. Usine. 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 La banane. La banane. La banane. La banane. L'hôpital. 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 Serveur. 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 Verre de vin. Verre de vin. Verre de vin. Les enfants. Les enfants. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. Le soleil. Le soleil. Le soleil.
Hi there, or should I say bonjour. This is Steve Kaufman here. I'm going to talk about how to learn French online and specifically using the resources that are available at Link. In my previous video, I showed you how to find content in our library at Link or from elsewhere on the internet. And I'm going to use 3 examples here of how I would study. Now, here is a lesson, and this is a lesson created by 2 of our members. Immediately we see that there are, for me, as a learner of French, although I'm not learning French, I have played around with French and saved certain words. So what we see immediately is that there are some words that are highlighted in yellow, and some are blue, and some are not highlighted at all. What that means is that the blue words are new to me. I may know them, I may not know them, but I have not come across them before at Link. If you are a brand new learner at Link, all your words will be blue. Once you save a word, or link it as we say, it becomes yellow. And if you decide not to save a word, you can mark it as known individually, like here you can say known, or you can click linked and it'll remove all of the blue words that you did not link. All right? So this is kind of the fundamental task at Link. It's a way of adding words to your database of words that you want to learn. It's indicating the words that you already know, and you set yourself up so that the next time any of these yellow words show up, you're reminded that you once looked them up, you're reminded of what they mean, and so forth. Okay, very quickly here there are some instructions. We want you to read and listen. We want you to link new words. In other words, decide the words you want to learn and click on them. If you have the time to submit some writing and also speak to a tutor on the subject of this lesson. You'll notice that there's a sound bar where we can listen to this exchange.
Salut Marguerite.
Bonjour Serge.
Est-ce que tu sais pourquoi je t'appelle?
Oui, je sais pourquoi tu m'appelles.
Okay. This is a relatively simple conversation. It's natural. It's unscripted. The advantage of this lesson is that it contains a lot of relatively common words. One of my beliefs is that the sooner we can get away from uninteresting beginner content, the better. And this kind of conversation generally has fewer difficult words in it than, let's say, literature. So it's a very good place to start. You don't need to begin with very simple material and think that you are building this great house based on building blocks or that you've got some great foundation in the language, because in fact, everything we learn, we forget. And it's very difficult to make interesting content containing only the most common words in the language and so forth. So you're better off to struggle through with content that's a little difficult, linking, listen more than once, and even if you don't fully understand it, you move on to the next. Now, if I were doing this lesson, okay, comment, voilà. Est-ce que tu sais pourquoi je t'appelle? Now, you can save t'appelle, calling you, as a word, or maybe you're more interested in est-ce que tu sais pourquoi je t'appelle? You might be interested in this whole phrase. So then, why I call you. So you have a choice. You can either save an individual word or you can save the phrase. All right? So one thing, by the way, as you save these are added to your list of links for this lesson. You can always go in and flashcard them, do close tests, print them, export them to your Anki or whatever the case may be. You probably don't need to look at this either once you're done with it. So now you have a better look at this text. Now, normally, if I were studying a language, I would say, there's not that many new words here. It might be more convenient to do this on my iPad. So maybe I want to go through and get rid of all of the blue words that I need to know. So, m'appelle, call me, yeah, I know that. Surprise, I know that. Podcast, I know that. Accent is an emphasis. Yeah, mais l'accent, emphasis, okay. So, in other words, you're going to go through here and save these. Now, and sometimes the translation, permettrait is would permit. So, this translation that Google Translate has provided is not very good. So in that case, you click on search the dictionary and allow, would allow. So you can grab that verb, would allow, permettrait. You may or may not know that it's would allow. Sometimes you just say allow, because some of the call it the functions of the word, the grammar is going to gradually get clearer. And then you just save it. All right? So I would go through and do that, getting rid of all my blue words. Now, I'm not going to do that for you here, but I would do that because then I can read it. I can read it on my iPad, and I'll have all the words that I need. The other thing that I could do here is, I regularly, like ce qui permettrait, that's the, the conditional, it would permit, all right? So I might want to save that, and you see they've got it wrong. It's which would permit. So I would edit that, and I would say, no, that is which would permit. And then I would also add a tag. Now I haven't got, or maybe I have, yeah, conditional. All right, so I would tag that as conditional, because then later on in the vocab section, I can review a long list of examples of the conditional. There might be other expressions here, or other, j'aimerais, here's another conditional. So, voila. Here, this is quite interesting. I could put j'aimerais qu'on mette au point. Okay? So I go and save that as a phrase and see what I would like to put the point. Now that is wrong. Now Google Translate tries its best. If it doesn't come out quite correct, you may ask your tutor, what does this mean? Or really what this means is, I would like to I would like them to create, or mettre au point is to create something, right? I would like, and I might tag that for the conditional, and if I'm really clever, I might tag it also for the what do you call it, subjunctive, which I don't have here. So I add that, and I'm going to have another tag, because j'aimerais qu'on mette is actually the subjunctive. Now, that gets pretty complicated, and if you don't know that, then you don't know that. But this way you can tag two tags, so that when you you can review all your subjunctives. Granted, this assumes a certain knowledge of the language, so you kind of grow with the system. At first, you don't tag for that. You probably have a little book with some grammar explanations, or you've asked your tutor. You get a sense of what the subjunctive is, and as you become familiar with it, you start tagging for it. Or you might tag for, like je sais, sais is savoir, savez-vous. If you have trouble with that verb, or the verb avoir, j'ai, vous avez, nous avons, or aller, vont, you may tag it as the verb, aller, or however you want to use the tags. I find it quite useful to do. So, that's kind of the main thing here. This is, I think, fun. It's not very difficult. It's for an intermediate learner. If you're beginning in French, there are a lot of very basic beginner lessons that you can spend a month or two on. But within a month or two, you should be moving on to these lessons. Now, let's move on here. The other day, I went to Le Monde. I showed you how you can use our bookmarklet to go and cut and paste and bring articles in from the newspapers that are available on the internet. And so here, of course, there are more words that are new, because the newspaper uses more complicated vocabulary. So I like to do a lot of reading without the sound. You'll notice that there's no sound bar here, because this was just a newspaper article that we imported. So voilà un constat. Okay, so you put your cursor there, and here is an observation, and here you have a number of recommended hints or meanings that our learners have chosen in the past. You may not be sure which one it is, which one applies in here, and I always say, don't worry about the dictionary definition. You want to get a hint as to what the meaning is. If you have a few hints, after a while you start to piece together what the meaning of this article is, and it may still be a bit fuzzy. I think it's very important that language learners accept the fact that any meaning in anything they're reading in the language is going to be unclear for a long, long time. And they should move on to new material, even though what they're working with is a little unclear. It's not a matter of nailing it down and putting bricks or putting together a foundation. It's a matter of exposing yourself. And someone on my YouTube channel said, quoting Michael Lewis with his lexical approach to language learning is not a machine with components. Language learning is like a tree that you nourish with sunlight and water and soil and nutrients and so forth. So we might just take that. Qui va déranger, upset, sure. So, here again, I could go to the quick link view here. A good thing to do is to do the quick link view to get through all of these new words. It's not that long a lesson, an article. Then go back in and save phrases for specific points of grammar that you want. And now you're set to go on your iPad where you can sit down in a comfortable chair and read it again. And if there's sound on the iPad, you can listen to the sound and read it. And with your finger touch screen, just see the meanings of the words. So just moving on a little more quickly here, because I know there's a time limit. Here is an audiobook. So here's the kind of stuff that's available. All this is from our link library. It's Guy de Maupassant, Le Horla, from Livrophone, which they kindly allowed us to put up. And so we can listen here to
Le Horla. 8 mai.
Quelle journée admirable! J'ai passé toute la matinée étendu sur l'herbe, devant ma maison, sous l'énorme platane qui...
Now, one of the things you can do with a novel like this, which may have a lot of new words for you, you can again go through and, save the words that you need. And then, if you can then, as I say, read it on your iPad, or if you prefer, and if you have a hard copy, you can actually read the book and have adjacent all of the words you need so that you can enjoy reading the book. The advantage of reading on the iPad is that you can also listen to it. So there's so many different ways that you can access this material. You can listen to it on an MP3 player while running, and I often do this, and of course I miss so much. Then I come back to the book, and I have my iPad handy with the meanings of the words available at the touch of a finger, and I read the book in paper, which is a more comfortable format. And then every so often I will review the words that I've saved. The list here is short. If I went through here and saved all the words I needed, the list would get longer. And I think that's enough today on the subject of how I study these lessons. And next time I'll talk about how I would deal with them in the vocabulary section in order to have a better chance of remembering the words. So that's that. And thank you very much for listening.
Hello. Bonjour. Hello. Bonjour. Hi. Salut. Hi. Salut. Good evening. Bonsoir. Good evening. Bonsoir. How are you? Comment allez-vous? How are you? Comment allez-vous? How are you? Comment vas-tu? How are you? Comment vas-tu? How's it going? Ça va? How's it going? Ça va? I am well. Je vais bien. I am well. Je vais bien. I'm doing pretty well. Je vais assez bien. I'm doing pretty well. Je vais assez bien. Not bad. Pas mal. Not bad. Pas mal. My name is. Je m'appelle. My name is. Je m'appelle. Please. S'il vous plaît. Please. S'il vous plaît. Please. S'il te plaît. Please. S'il te plaît. Thanks. Merci. Thanks. Merci. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. You're welcome. De rien. You're welcome. De rien. You're welcome. Pas de quoi. You're welcome. Pas de quoi. See you soon. À bientôt. See you soon. À bientôt. Goodbye. Au revoir. Goodbye. Au revoir.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue sur ReFrench. Aujourd'hui, nous allons apprendre notre première phrase de base en français. Je vous présente Jack et Sarah. Jack vient du Royaume-Uni et Sarah vient des États-Unis. Jack et Sarah décident de faire un voyage en France et atterrissent à Paris. Arrivé à la douane, l'agent de sécurité dit à Jack « Bonjour, quelle est votre nationalité ?» Mais Jack ne comprend pas la question. Essayons de l'aider. Jetons un coup d'œil à ce que dit le garde de sécurité. La première phrase est facile à comprendre. Bonjour, hello. La deuxième question est facile à comprendre une fois qu'on a mis la traduction de chaque mot en dessous. What is your nationality? Quelle est votre nationalité? Pour répondre à cette question, c'est facile. Il suffit d'utiliser cette petite phrase en 3 mots, un sujet, un verbe et un complément. Je suis anglais. Je suis anglais. Cette phrase très simple utilise un adjectif pour décrire Jack. Jack est anglais. Encore la même phrase, un sujet, un verbe et un complément. Et pour Sarah, c'est la même chose. Sujet, verbe, complément. Je suis américaine. Attention, Sarah est une fille. On ajoute donc un E à la fin de américain pour utiliser l'adjectif au féminin. Je suis américaine. Si plusieurs personnes parlent, elles peuvent dire « Nous sommes américains ». Attention, là encore, on ajoute une lettre, un S à la fin de américain pour mettre l'adjectif au pluriel. Nous sommes américains. On peut aussi utiliser un nom. Nous sommes des touristes. We are tourists. Encore une fois, on ajoute un S car 3 personnes sont en train de parler. Maintenant, à votre tour. Pouvez-vous traduire cette phrase en français? Jack is a boy. Et en français, ça donne Jack est un garçon. Sujet, verbe, complément. C'est simple. Encore un autre exemple. Traduisez en français Sarah is tall. Et en français, ça donne Sarah est grande. Attention, on ajoute un E à la fin de l'adjectif grand, car Sarah est toujours une fille, et on met donc cet adjectif au féminin. Sarah est grande. Merci beaucoup. Vous pourrez trouver d'autres exemples de cette structure de phrase très simple, pratiquer votre maîtrise de cette structure, apprendre plein d'autres mots de vocabulaire sur ReFrench. Alors n'hésitez pas, refrench.net, refrench.net, on vous attend. À bientôt.
Apprendre le français pour les débutants.
تعلم اللغة الفرنسية للمبتدئين.
Le téléphone. Le téléphone. Le téléphone. La servante. La servante. Les épices. Les épices. Les épices. La question. La question. La question. Le vin. Le vin. Le vin. Le froid. Le froid. Le froid. L'homme, vieux. L'homme, vieux. La petite fille. La petite fille. La petite fille. Usine. 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 La banane. La banane. La banane. La banane. L'hôpital. 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 Serveur. 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 Verre de vin. Verre de vin. Verre de vin. Les enfants. Les enfants. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. Le soleil. Le soleil. Le soleil.
GCSE Topic-Based Vocabulary Foundation Level GCSE Theme 1 My World Section A Jobs
Agent de police.
Policeman
Agent de police.
Policeman
Boucher.
Butcher
Boucher.
Butcher
Boulanger.
Baker
Boulanger.
Baker
Coiffeur.
Hairdresser
Coiffeur.
Hairdresser
Directeur.
Boss
Directeur.
Boss
Employé.
Employee
Employé.
Employee
Facteur.
Postman
Facteur.
Postman
Fermier.
Farmer
Fermier.
Farmer
Garçon de café.
Waiter
Garçon de café.
Waiter
Infirmière.
Nurse
Infirmière.
Nurse
Médecin.
Doctor
Médecin.
Doctor
Professeur.
Teacher
Professeur.
Teacher
Sans travail.
Out of work
Sans travail.
Out of work
Serveur.
Waiter
Serveur.
Waiter
Travailler.
To work
Travailler.
To work
Vendeur.
Shop assistant
Vendeur.
Shop assistant Section B Pets
Animal.
Animal
Animal.
Animal
Chat.
Cat
Chat.
Cat
Cheval.
Horse
Cheval.
Horse
Chien.
Dog
Chien.
Dog
Lapin.
Rabbit
Lapin.
Rabbit
Oiseau.
Bird
Oiseau.
Bird
Poisson.
Fish
Poisson.
Fish
Souris.
Mouse
Souris.
Mouse Section 3 Family
Célibataire.
Single, unmarried.
Célibataire.
Single, unmarried.
Cousin.
Cousin,
Cousin.
cousin.
Divorcé.
Divorced.
Divorcé. Enfant.
Child,
Enfant.
child.
Famille.
Family,
Famille.
family.
Femme.
Wife,
Femme.
woman. Wife, woman.
Femme.
Wife, woman.
Fille.
Daughter, girl.
Fille.
Daughter, girl.
Fils.
Son,
Fils.
son.
Frère.
Brother,
Frère.
brother.
Demi-frère.
Half-brother,
Demi-frère.
half-brother.
Beau-frère.
Step-brother,
Beau-frère.
step-brother.
Garçon.
Boy,
Garçon.
boy.
Grand-mère.
Grandmother,
Grand-mère.
grandmother.
Grand-père.
Grandfather,
Grand-père.
grandfather.
Grands-parents.
Grandparents,
Grands-parents.
grandparents.
Homme.
Man,
Homme.
man.
Maman.
Mum,
Maman.
mum.
Mari.
Husband,
Mari.
husband.
Marié.
Married,
Marié.
married.
Mère.
Mother,
Mère.
mother.
Belle-mère.
Stepmother,
Belle-mère.
stepmother.
Mort.
Dead,
Mort.
dead.
Oncle.
Uncle,
Oncle.
uncle.
Papa.
Dad,
Papa.
dad.
Père.
Father,
Père.
father.
Beau-père.
Stepfather,
Beau-père.
stepfather.
Sœur.
Sister,
Belle-sœur.
stepsister,
Belle-sœur.
stepsister.
Demi-sœur.
Half-sister,
Demi-sœur.
half-sister.
Tante.
Aunt,
Tante.
aunt. Section D, descriptive.
Barbe.
Beard,
Barbe.
beard.
Cheveux.
Hair,
Cheveux.
hair.
Lunettes.
Glasses,
Lunettes.
glasses.
Visage.
Face,
Visage.
face.
Yeux.
Eyes,
Yeux.
eyes. Section E, titles.
Madame.
Mrs,
Madame.
Mrs,
Mademoiselle.
Miss,
Mademoiselle.
Miss.
Monsieur.
Mr,
Monsieur.
Mr. Section F, interests.
BD. Bande dessinée.
Comic strip, comic book.
BD. Bande dessinée.
Comic strip, comic book.
Carte.
Cards,
Carte.
cards.
Cinéma.
Cinema,
Cinéma.
cinema.
Jeux vidéo.
Computer games,
Jeux vidéo.
computer games.
Lecture.
Reading,
Lecture.
reading.
Ordinateur.
Computer,
Ordinateur.
computer. Section F, sports.
Courir.
Running,
Courir.
running.
Équipe.
Team,
Équipe.
team.
Équitation.
Horse riding,
Équitation.
horse riding.
Match.
Match,
Match.
match.
Natation.
Swimming,
Natation.
swimming.
Patinoire.
Ice rink,
Patinoire.
ice rink.
Pêche.
Fishing,
Pêche.
fishing.
Piscine.
Swimming pool,
Piscine.
swimming pool.
Promenade.
Walk,
Promenade.
walk.
Vélo.
Bike,
Vélo.
bike. Section G, home,
Appartement.
flat.
appartement,
flat,
château,
château or manor house,
château,
château or manor house,
ferme,
farm,
ferme,
farm,
immeuble,
block of flats,
immeuble,
block of flats,
maison,
house,
maison,
house. Section H, rooms and parts of the house.
cave,
Cellar,
cave,
cellar,
chambre,
bedroom,
chambre,
bedroom,
cuisine,
kitchen,
cuisine,
kitchen,
douche,
shower,
douche,
shower,
escalier,
staircase,
escalier,
staircase,
étage,
floor, level,
étage,
floor, level,
garage,
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 jardin,
garden,
jardin,
garden,
pièce,
room,
pièce,
room,
rez-de-chaussée,
ground floor,
rez-de-chaussée,
ground floor,
salle à manger,
dining room,
salle à manger,
dining room,
salle de bain,
bathroom,
salle de bain,
bathroom,
salle de séjour,
living room,
salle de séjour,
living room,
salon,
sitting room,
salon,
sitting room,
toilette WC,
toilets, loo,
toilette WC,
toilets, loo. Section I, furniture and furnishings.
armoire,
Wardrobe,
armoire,
wardrobe,
canapé,
sofa, settee,
canapé,
sofa, settee,
chaise,
chair,
chaise,
chair,
chauffage central,
central heating,
chauffage central,
central heating,
cuisinière,
cooker,
cuisinière,
cooker,
fauteuil,
armchair,
fauteuil,
armchair,
fenêtre,
window,
fenêtre,
window,
four,
oven,
four,
oven,
frigo,
fridge,
frigo,
fridge,
lampe,
lamp,
lampe,
lamp,
lavabo,
wash basin,
lavabo,
wash basin,
lave-vaisselle,
dishwasher,
lave-vaisselle,
dishwasher,
lit,
bed,
lit,
bed,
meuble,
piece of furniture,
meuble,
piece of furniture,
miroir,
mirror,
miroir,
mirror,
moquette,
carpet,
moquette,
carpet,
mur,
wall,
mur,
wall,
placard,
cupboard,
placard,
cupboard,
porte,
door,
porte,
door,
rideau,
curtain,
rideau,
curtain,
tapis,
rug,
tapis,
rug. Section J, places and things in town.
arbre,
Tree,
arbre,
tree,
arrêt de bus,
bus stop,
arrêt de bus,
bus stop,
autobus,
bus,
autobus,
bus,
bâtiment,
building,
bâtiment,
building,
car,
coach,
car,
coach,
collège,
secondary school,
collège,
secondary school,
école,
primary school,
école,
primary school,
église,
church,
église,
church,
fleur,
flower,
fleur,
flower,
gare,
station,
gare,
station,
gare routière,
bus station,
gare routière,
bus station,
hôtel de ville, mairie,
town hall,
hôtel de ville, mairie,
town hall,
magasin,
shop,
magasin,
shop,
métro,
tube, underground,
métro,
tube, underground,
musée,
museum,
musée,
museum,
pelouse,
lawn,
pelouse,
lawn,
place,
square,
place,
square,
plage,
beach,
plage,
beach,
pont,
bridge,
pont,
bridge,
rivière,
river,
rivière,
river,
route,
road,
route.
road. Section K, food and meals.
Café, café crème,
Coffee with milk.
crème.
Coffee with milk.
Cantine,
Dining hall,
cantine.
dining hall.
Chips,
Crisps,
chips.
crisps.
Déjeuner,
Lunch,
déjeuner.
lunch.
Dîner,
Dinner,
dîner.
dinner.
Eau,
Water,
eau.
water.
Frites,
Chips,
frites.
chips.
Gâteau,
Cake,
gâteau.
cake.
Goûter,
Tea or snack,
goûter.
tea or snack.
Jus de fruits,
Fruit juice,
jus de fruits.
fruit juice.
Lait,
Milk,
lait.
milk.
Pain,
Bread,
pain.
bread.
Pain grillé,
Toast,
pain grillé.
toast.
Petit déjeuner,
Breakfast,
petit déjeuner.
breakfast.
Potage,
Soup,
potage.
soup.
Repas,
Meal,
repas.
meal.
Rôti,
Joint of meat,
rôti.
joint of meat.
Thé,
Tea, drink.
thé.
Tea, drink.
Viande,
Meat,
viande.
meat.
Je mange,
I eat,
je mange.
I eat.
Je ne mange pas,
I don't eat,
je ne mange pas.
I don't eat.
Je bois,
I drink,
je bois.
I drink.
Je ne bois pas,
I don't drink,
je ne bois pas.
I don't drink.
Végétarien,
Vegetarian,
végétarien.
vegetarian. Section L, school day.
Aller au lit, je vais au lit.
To go to bed, I go to bed.
Aller au lit, je vais au lit.
To go to bed, I go to bed.
Prendre un bain, je prends un bain.
To have a bath, I have a bath.
Prendre un bain, je prends un bain.
To have a bath, I have a bath.
Se doucher, je me douche.
To have a shower, I have a shower.
Se doucher, je me douche.
To have a shower, I have a shower.
Cours,
Lessons,
cours.
lessons.
Commencer,
To start,
commencer.
to start.
Finir,
To finish,
finir.
to finish.
Pause déjeuner,
Lunch break,
pause déjeuner.
lunch break.
Récréation,
Break,
récréation.
break. Section M, school.
Bibliothèque,
Library,
bibliothèque.
library.
Centre sportif,
Sports centre,
centre sportif.
sports centre.
Devoir,
Homework,
devoir.
homework.
Élève,
Pupil,
élève.
pupil.
Emploi du temps,
Timetable,
emploi du temps.
timetable.
Passer un examen,
To take an exam,
passer un examen.
to take an exam.
Laboratoire,
Laboratory,
laboratoire.
laboratory.
Lycée,
Upper school,
lycée.
upper school.
Professeur de,
Teacher,
professeur de.
teacher.
Salle de classe,
Classroom,
salle de classe.
classroom.
Travail,
Work,
travail.
work. Section N, subjects.
Allemand,
German,
allemand.
German.
Anglais,
English,
anglais.
English.
Appel,
Registration,
appel.
registration.
Art dramatique,
Drama,
art dramatique.
drama.
Dessin,
Art,
dessin.
art.
Éducation physique,
PE,
éducation physique.
PE.
Espagnol,
Spanish,
espagnol.
Spanish.
Français,
French,
français.
French.
Histoire,
History,
Histoire.
History.
Informatique.
IT.
Informatique.
IT.
Technologie.
Tech or DT.
Technologie.
Tech or DT. Theme 2, Holiday Time and Travel. Section A, Train Travel.
Aller-retour.
Return ticket.
Aller-retour.
Return ticket.
Aller simple.
One-way ticket.
Aller simple.
One-way ticket.
Arriver.
Arrivals.
Arriver.
Arrivals.
Billet.
Ticket.
Billet.
Ticket.
Consigne.
Left luggage.
Consigne.
Left luggage.
Départ.
Departures.
Départ.
Departures.
Destination.
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 Direct.
Straight through.
Direct.
Straight through.
Entrée.
Way in.
Entrée.
Way in.
Non-fumeur.
Non-smoker.
Non-fumeur.
Non-smoker.
Guichet.
Ticket office.
Guichet.
Ticket office.
Horaire.
Timetable.
Horaire.
Timetable.
Quai. Voie.
Platform.
Quai. Voie.
Platform.
Renseignement.
Inquiries.
Renseignement.
Inquiries.
Réservation.
Booking.
Réservation.
Booking.
Salle d'attente.
Waiting room.
Salle d'attente.
Waiting room.
Sortie.
Exit.
Sortie.
Exit. Section B, Other Travel.
Aéroport.
Airport.
Aéroport.
Airport.
Autoroute. A7.
Motorway. M7.
Autoroute A7.
Motorway. M7.
Avion.
Plane.
Avion.
Plane.
Bateau.
Boat.
Carnet.
A book of tickets.
Carnet.
A book of tickets.
Carrefour.
Crossroads.
Carrefour.
Crossroads.
Carte.
Map.
Carte.
Map.
Essence.
Petrol.
Essence.
Petrol.
Feu rouge.
Traffic lights.
Feu rouge.
Traffic lights.
Gendarme.
Policeman.
Gendarme.
Policeman.
Ligne.
Number of bus.
Ligne.
Number of bus.
Piéton.
Pedestrians.
Piéton.
Pedestrians.
Plan de la ville.
Map of the town.
Plan de la ville.
Map of the town.
Rond-point.
Roundabout.
Rond-point.
Roundabout.
Roue.
Wheel.
Roue.
Wheel.
Route nationale RN 38.
Main road. A38.
Route nationale RN 38.
Main road. A38.
Station-service.
Petrol station.
Station-service.
Petrol station.
Voiture.
Car.
Voiture.
Car.
Voyager.
To travel.
Voyager.
To travel.
Voyageur.
A traveller. Someone travelling.
Voyageur.
A traveller. Someone travelling. Section C. Tourism.
À l'étranger.
Abroad.
À l'étranger.
Abroad.
Agence de voyage.
Travel agent.
Agence de voyage.
Travel agent.
Camping.
Campsite.
Camping.
Campsite.
Douane.
Customs.
Douane.
Customs.
Gîte.
Holiday home.
Gîte.
Holiday home.
Valise.
Suitcase.
Valise.
Suitcase.
Vol.
Flight.
Vol.
Flight. Section D. Weather.
Il fait.
The weather is.
Il fait.
The weather is.
Beau.
Fine.
Beau.
Fine.
Chaud.
Hot.
Chaud.
Hot.
Froid.
Cold.
Froid.
Cold.
Du brouillard.
Foggy.
Du brouillard.
Foggy.
Du soleil.
Sunny.
du soleil,
sunny,
du vent,
windy,
du vent,
windy,
mauvais,
bad,
mauvais.
bad.
C'est nuageux,
It's cloudy,
c'est nuageux.
it's cloudy,
Il gèle,
it's freezing,
il gèle.
it's freezing,
Il pleut,
it's raining,
il pleut.
it's raining,
Il neige,
it's snowing,
il neige.
it's snowing,
La pluie,
rain,
la pluie.
rain. Section E, hotel accommodation.
Art,
Deposit,
art.
deposit.
Auberge de jeunesse,
Youth hostel,
auberge de jeunesse.
youth hostel.
Balcon,
Balcony,
balcon.
balcony.
Bar,
Bar,
bar.
bar.
Chambre double,
A double room,
chambre double.
a double room.
Chambre de famille,
A family room,
chambre de famille.
a family room.
Chambre pour une personne,
A room for one person,
chambre pour une personne.
a room for one person.
Chambre libre,
A spare room,
chambre libre.
a spare room.
Par personne,
Per person,
par personne.
per person.
Par nuit,
Per night,
par nuit.
per night.
Parking,
Car park,
parking.
car park.
Passeport,
Passport,
passeport.
passport.
Pension complète,
Full board,
pension complète.
full board.
Demi-pension,
Half board,
demi-pension.
half board.
Pour nuit par personne.
For night person,
Pour nuit personne.
for night person.
Recommandé,
To recommend,
recommandé.
to recommend.
Réservé,
To book,
réservé.
to book. Section F, equipment.
Ne marche pas,
Isn't working,
ne marche pas.
isn't working.
Est cassé,
Broken,
est cassé.
broken.
Il n'y a pas de,
There isn't any,
il n'y a pas de.
there isn't any.
Il me faut,
I need,
il me faut.
I need.
Brosse à dents,
Toothbrush,
brosse à dents.
toothbrush.
Dentifrice,
Toothpaste,
dentifrice.
toothpaste.
Eau potable,
Drinking water,
eau potable.
drinking water.
Savon,
Soap,
savon.
soap.
Serviette,
Towel,
serviette.
towel. Section G, at the restaurant.
Addition,
Bill,
addition.
bill.
Assiette,
Plate,
assiette.
plate.
Carte, menu.
Menu,
Carte, menu.
menu.
Commander,
To order,
commander.
to order.
Couteau,
Knife,
couteau.
knife.
Crudité,
Salad,
crudité.
salad.
Cuillère,
Spoon,
cuillère.
spoon.
Fourchette,
Fork,
fourchette.
fork.
Garçon,
Waiter,
garçon.
waiter.
Hors d'œuvre,
Starters,
hors d'œuvre.
starters.
Le menu à euros.
The Euro menu,
Le menu à euros.
the Euro menu.
Pâtisserie,
Pastries, cakes,
pâtisserie.
pastries, cakes.
Plat du jour,
Today's meal,
plat du jour.
today's meal.
Pour commencer,
To start,
pour commencer.
to start.
Service non compris,
Service not included,
service non compris.
service not included.
Tasse,
Cup,
tasse.
cup. Section H, parts of the body and illnesses.
J'ai mal à,
I've got a bad, I've got a sore, my something hurts.
J'ai mal à.
I've got a bad. I've got a sore. My something hurts.
Blessé.
Injured.
Blessé.
Injured.
Bouche.
Mouth.
Bouche.
Mouth.
Bras.
Arm.
Bras.
Arm.
Cassé.
Broken.
Cassé.
Broken.
Cou.
Neck.
Cou.
Neck.
Dent.
Teeth.
Dent.
Teeth.
Coupé.
Cut.
Coupé.
Cut.
Docteur.
Doctor.
Docteur.
Doctor.
Doigt.
Finger.
Doigt.
Finger.
Dos.
Back.
Dos.
Back.
Enrhumé.
A cold.
Enrhumé.
A cold.
Estomac. Ventre.
Stomach.
Estomac. Ventre.
Stomach.
Fièvre.
Fever.
Fièvre.
Fever.
Genou.
Knee.
Genou.
Knee.
Gorge.
Throat.
Gorge.
Throat.
Grave.
Serious.
Grave.
Serious.
Grippe.
Flu.
Grippe.
Flu.
Jambe.
Leg.
Jambe.
Leg.
Main.
Hand.
Main.
Hand.
Nez.
Nose.
Nez.
Nose.
Œil. Yeux.
Eye. Eyes.
Œil. Yeux.
Eye. Eyes.
Oreille.
Ear.
Oreille.
Ear.
Pharmacien.
Pharmacist.
Pharmacien.
Pharmacist.
Rhume.
A cold.
Rhume.
A cold.
Tête.
Head.
Tête.
Head.
Vomir.
To be sick.
Vomir.
To be sick.
Ambulance.
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 Comprimé.
Tablets.
Comprimé.
Tablets.
Médecin.
Doctor.
Médecin.
Doctor.
Pharmacie.
Pharmacy.
Pharmacie.
Pharmacy.
Hôpital.
Hospital.
Hôpital.
Hospital.
Médicament.
Medicine.
Médicament.
Medicine.
Sirop.
Cough mixture.
Sirop.
Cough mixture.
Pastille.
Throat tablets.
Pastille.
Throat tablets. Section I. Services.
Boîte aux lettres.
Postbox.
Boîte aux lettres.
Postbox.
Cabine téléphonique.
Phone box.
Cabine téléphonique.
Phone box.
Carte postale.
Postcard.
Carte postale.
Postcard.
Location.
Hire.
Location.
Hire.
À louer.
For hire.
À louer.
For hire.
Objet trouvé.
Lost property.
Objet trouvé.
Lost property.
Paquet.
Parcel.
Paquet.
Parcel.
Police.
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 Poste.
Post office.
Poste.
Post office.
Sapeur-pompier.
Fire brigade.
Sapeur-pompier.
Fire brigade.
Télécarte.
Phone card.
Télécarte.
Phone card.
Timbre.
Stamp.
Timbre.
Stamp. Theme 3. Work and lifestyle. Section A. Home life.
Faire les courses.
To do the shopping.
Faire les courses.
To do the shopping.
Débarrasser la table.
To clear the table.
Débarrasser la table.
To clear the table.
Faire du jardinage.
To do the gardening.
Faire du jardinage.
To do the gardening.
Faire le ménage.
To do the housework.
Faire le ménage.
To do the housework.
Nettoyer.
To clean.
Nettoyer.
To clean.
Passer l'aspirateur.
To hoover.
Passer l'aspirateur.
To hoover.
Sortir la poubelle.
To put the bin out.
Sortir la poubelle.
To put the bin out.
Ranger.
To tidy up.
Ranger.
To tidy up.
Faire la vaisselle.
To do the washing up.
Faire la vaisselle.
To do the washing up.
Laver le linge.
To do the washing.
Laver le linge.
To do the washing. Section B. For a list of food, ask your teacher. Section C. Television and leisure.
Acteur, actrice.
Actor.
Acteur, actrice.
Actor.
Chanson,
Song.
chanson.
Song.
Chanteur,
Singer.
chanteur.
Singer.
Film de science-fiction.
Science fiction film.
Film de science-fiction.
Science fiction film.
Film comique.
Comedy.
Film comique.
Comedy.
Film d'amour.
A love or a romance.
Film d'amour.
Love or a romance.
Film d'aventure.
An adventure film.
Film d'aventure.
An adventure film.
Film d'épouvante.
A horror film.
Film d'épouvante.
A horror film.
Émission.
TV program.
Émission.
TV program.
Entrée.
Cost to get in.
Entrée.
Cost to get in.
Prix étudiant.
Student rate.
Prix étudiant.
Student rate.
Feuilleton.
Soap.
Feuilleton.
Soap.
Information.
News.
Information.
News.
Place.
Seat.
Place.
Seat.
Publicité.
Adverts.
Publicité.
Adverts.
Sous-titré.
Subtitled.
Sous-titré.
Subtitled.
Version française.
French version.
Version française.
French version.
Version originale.
Original version.
Version originale.
Original version. Section D. Shops.
Alimentation. Épicerie.
Grocers.
Alimentation. Épicerie.
Grocers.
Banque.
Bank.
Banque.
Bank.
Boucherie.
Butchers.
Boucherie.
Butchers.
Boulangerie.
Bakers.
Boulangerie.
Bakers.
Caisse.
Cash desk. Till.
Caisse.
Cash desk. Till.
Carte de crédit.
Credit card.
Carte de crédit.
Credit card.
Centre commercial.
Shopping center.
Centre commercial.
Shopping center.
Charcuterie.
Delicatessen.
Charcuterie.
Delicatessen.
Grand magasin.
Department store.
Grand magasin.
Department store.
Hypermarché.
Hypermarket.
Hypermarché.
Hypermarket.
Librairie.
Bookshop.
Librairie.
Bookshop.
Marchand.
Shop owner.
Marchand.
Shop owner.
Marché.
Market.
Marché.
Market.
Magasin de.
A something shop.
Magasin de.
A something shop.
Pâtisserie.
Cake shop.
Pâtisserie.
Cake shop.
Pharmacie.
Pharmacy.
Pharmacie.
Pharmacy.
Portefeuille.
Wallet.
Portefeuille.
Wallet.
Porte-monnaie.
Purse.
Porte-monnaie.
Purse.
Sous-sol.
Basement.
Sous-sol.
Basement.
Ascenseur.
Lift.
Ascenseur.
Lift.
Supermarché.
Supermarket.
Supermarché.
Supermarket.
Tabac.
Tobacconist.
Tabac.
Tobacconist. Section E. Clothes.
Basket.
Trainers.
Basket.
Trainers.
Blouson.
Casual jacket.
Blouson.
Casual jacket.
Casquette.
Cap.
Casquette.
Cap.
Chapeau.
Hat.
Chapeau.
Hat.
Chaussette.
Sock.
Chaussette.
Sock.
Chaussure.
Shoe.
Chaussure.
Shoe.
Chemise.
Shirt.
Chemise.
Shirt.
Coton.
Cotton.
Coton.
Cotton.
Cravate.
Tie.
Cravate.
Tie.
Cuir.
Leather.
Cuir.
Leather.
Imperméable.
Mac. Raincoat.
Imperméable.
A Mac. A raincoat.
Jean.
Jeans.
Jean.
Jeans.
Jogging.
Tracksuit.
Jogging.
Tracksuit.
Jupe.
Skirt.
Jupe.
Skirt.
Laine.
Wool.
Laine.
Wool.
Maillot de bain.
Swimming costume.
Maillot de bain.
Swimming costume.
Maillot de foot.
Football shirt.
Maillot de foot.
Football shirt.
Manteau.
Coat.
Manteau.
Coat.
Montre.
Watch.
Montre.
Watch.
Mouchoir.
Hanky.
Mouchoir.
Hanky.
Pantalon.
Trousers.
Pantalon.
Trousers.
Parapluie.
Umbrella.
Parapluie.
Umbrella.
Parfum.
perfume,
Parfum.
perfume,
Pull.
jumper,
Pull.
jumper,
Robe.
dress,
Robe.
dress,
Sac.
bag,
Sac.
bag,
Short.
shorts,
Short.
shorts,
Sweat.
sweatshirt,
Sweat.
sweatshirt,
Trou.
hole,
Trou.
hole,
T-shirt.
t-shirt,
T-shirt.
t-shirt,
Veste.
jacket,
Veste.
jacket. Theme 4, Young Person in Society. Section A, the environment.
Camion.
Lorry,
Camion.
lorry,
Poids lourd.
heavy goods vehicle,
Poids lourd.
heavy goods vehicle,
Circulation.
traffic,
Circulation.
traffic,
Embouteillage.
traffic jam,
Embouteillage.
traffic jam,
Fumée.
smoke,
Fumée.
smoke,
Gaz.
gas,
Gaz.
gas,
Heure d'affluence.
peak time,
Heure d'affluence.
peak time,
Polluer.
polluted,
Polluer.
polluted,
Pollution.
pollution,
Pollution.
pollution,
Transport en commun.
public transport,
Transport en commun.
public transport,
Zone piétonne.
pedestrian zone,
Zone piétonne.
pedestrian zone,
Logement.
housing,
Logement.
housing,
HLM.
council housing,
HLM.
council housing,
Maison individuelle.
detached house,
Maison individuelle.
detached house,
Maison jumelée.
semi-detached house,
Maison jumelée.
semi-detached house. Section B, education issues.
À la mode.
Fashionable,
À la mode.
fashionable,
Apprenti.
an apprentice,
Apprenti.
apprentice,
Attaquer.
to attack,
Attaquer.
to attack,
Bac.
A-level exam,
Bac.
A-level exam,
Bijouterie.
jewelry,
Bijouterie.
jewelry,
Démodé.
old-fashioned,
Démodé.
old-fashioned,
Discipline.
discipline,
Discipline.
discipline,
Maquillage.
makeup,
Maquillage.
makeup,
Note.
mark,
Note.
mark,
Option.
choice of subject,
Option.
choice of subject,
Privé.
private,
Privé.
private,
Règle.
rule,
Règle.
rule,
Résultat.
results,
Résultat.
results,
Retenu.
detention,
Retenu.
detention,
Sécurité.
security,
Sécurité.
security,
Vandalisme.
vandalism,
Vandalisme.
vandalism,
Violence.
violence,
Violence.
violence. Section C, social issues.
Alcool.
Alcohol,
Alcool.
alcohol,
Cancer.
cancer,
Cancer.
cancer,
Cigarette.
cigarettes,
Cigarette.
cigarette,
Drogue.
drugs,
Drogue.
drugs,
Drogué.
someone who takes drugs,
Drogué.
someone who takes drugs,
Habitude.
habit,
Habitude.
habit,
Maladie.
illness,
Maladie.
illness,
Offre d'emploi.
job offer,
Offre d'emploi.
job offer,
S'habituer.
to get used to,
S'habituer.
to get used to.
Tabac.
Alright, this is on my French Yahoo page, and it's just PR fluff, but I find some interesting points in this article, and this is 10 points about what women don't like about men, you know, when they're dating. After the first date, you know, why doesn't she answer your calls if you call her back? These might be some of the reasons. I find some of these pretty valid. I really do. Tu es trop parfumé. Men who wear a lot of toiletries, which have a strong fragrance, it's really a big turnoff. I would advise against it. That's a good point. You know, you should be clean from head to toe, for sure. But you know, these strong scents are, you know, I find them personally, they make my nose run. And here's something else. Men get very attached to women. They just keep coming back when it's clear that the interest isn't there. And I've had this problem over and over again in my life, you know. I tried never to have sex until the 4th or 5th date, and it was really hard to get rid of men. Some of them would reappear every few years and literally just install themselves in my home. And I try to be a good hostess and, you know, have a bathrobe and slippers and stuff and make them comfortable, but then they would basically just ask for my keys or a set of their own keys. It was really disturbing. Alright, now it's very early in the morning and I'm smoking too much. Turn off your portable phone and never say, I have to take this call, it's important. Yeah, this happens to me a lot in business, and you know, if you cannot inform people in advance or post a message that you won't be available, I really don't appreciate that. With the kind of work I do, it has to be with no disturbance, and I do not want to hear your portable phone ring at all, and I don't want you taking any calls. You know, really, I mean, forget it. I hate it. Don't talk about your mother and about how good her cooking is. I find also, I have met women who also make the mistake of talking about their family. We don't need to hear about your family. If your family is very important to you, arrange a face-to-face meeting. I had a friend in New York who was always talking about her brothers or her cousins and what they were doing, and it was a huge turnoff, even for me as a female friend. And she wondered why she could never have meaningful long-term relationships, but, you know, don't talk about the family. You know, if somebody's really important to you of your own family, if you meet a new important person, you can arrange a face-to-face meeting or something like that. Otherwise, just don't talk about them. It's a huge, huge turnoff. Stop criticizing everything. You know, this says, well, you know, if you go to a restaurant and the service is bad, you don't like the decor, there's too much salt in your food, the people nearby are speaking too loudly, criticizing everything all of the time is really a bore. My second husband used to do that constantly. It was just, I can't believe I was with him for 12 years. What a jerk I am, you know. Also, watch your body odor. You know, you shouldn't be too heavily perfumed. I think you should just be clean. You know, if you have an odor, coffee breath, anything, it's just not nice for people, really. If you talk about your ex and how good she was, then the woman will wonder, well, why did you leave her then? You know, why did you leave her? If you had such a good wife or such a good girlfriend and she was so intelligent, so beautiful, so generous, why did you leave her? You know, don't talk about that. You know, it may have been a stupid mistake on your part, but I would say don't bring it up, because it really makes women wonder about you. You know, if she was so great, what was the problem? You know, I mean, whoa. And also talking about how bad women are or can be, and how bad relationships can be, is a huge turnoff. Women are not looking for a victim or a loser or a depressed person. You know, enough said. Now this is interesting. I don't really understand this. If you go out on a dinner date and you only order the smallest, cheapest salad, and he goes for the menu, which is, you know, a multi-course meal, and doesn't offer to share it, that's really a sign of selfishness and lack of recognition. You know, I did this a lot when he was paying, when men were paying. You know, I would really order something small and inexpensive most of the time, not always. I mean, sometimes I would say, well, yeah, I'm going to go for it. Is that cool with you? I want everything. Can you pay for it, really? And instead of just splitting the bill, with a lot of guys, I would take turns dating and paying, and we would just do what we could afford. So, like, if I couldn't afford a big event or something, I would just have them over to my place and make them a nice meal. I would cook it myself, or we would do something cheap. And I was taken on a lot of cheap dates that I thought were charming. The guy was like, well, I'd really love to see you, but I have very, very little money, so, you know, let's just ride the subway. I want to show you this cool place, and I know where there's a bathroom at the end of it, you know, and I just want to spend some time with you and talk to you, but I don't have any money today. That was fine with me, you know. If I didn't want to go do that, I just said no. You know, I really did not need expensive dates. I had a nice boyfriend for years in New York. He was a tennis pro, and he made pretty good money, and we got along famously. And we would take turns double dating, but when it was his turn to take me out, he was so polite, he treated me so nicely, and I didn't have to have a penny on me. And he never did anything that I don't think that he couldn't afford. I mean, the evening was all on him. You know, he picked me up, he dropped me off, and we stayed friends for years. That was a great dating situation. Yes, we did have sex, and I just really liked the way when I knew that he was taking me out, everything was going to be taken care of. He was going to look after everything for that evening or outing with me, and we had great times together, and we were in touch for like, whoa, more than 10-15 years. Very, very nice guy, and we just did what one or the other could afford, you know, and I was very, very nice to him, and he really appreciated it. We just didn't love each other, but it was really fun dating. Very, very good friends. Talking about your sexual exploits. Never do this with a woman. And for women to do this with men, some of them like it. They find it a little bit spicy. But that's something for, I think, men to more keep to themselves and talk about with their friends, you know. Boy, I really learned this the hard way. Whenever a man would tell me about a terrific sexual experience he had, he usually ended up being, frankly, some kind of pervert. So this is what French PR is saying. about why a first date could turn you off. You know, life is a mixed bag, and I've met some really bad men and some really terrible women. That is for sure. But I think that most of the points raised here are very interesting, and personally I would like to add that I don't like men who snort their snot, who don't use a handkerchief, who have bad manners, who have inappropriate footwear or footwear in bad condition. I don't know. Also for men and women both, I don't date women, but if I notice that something is seriously wrong with their teeth, I wonder, like if a lot of them are missing or something, I wonder why they're not dealing with it. I really do. It just looks very, very bad. It doesn't speak well of you. The hair doesn't bother me that much. You know, people might be a bit disheveled and be in need of a haircut or whatever. You know, it's not the end of the world. I don't mind if it's, you know, somebody has some stubble or something. But I care about manners a lot. And I appreciate people who quietly tell me if my manners are disturbing them. If I'm speaking too loudly, or I'm not sitting up correctly, or something like that. And a lot of American men, I find, have really bad manners. I don't know what they're thinking. You know, I mean, it's a dating situation. You know, I won't even go on a date, or I wouldn't. I don't date anymore, but like even a social thing for meeting with a girlfriend or something here, not that I have that many friends here in France, but unless I can, you know, pull myself together and be pretty much in form, I call it off. I just say I'm not up to it. You know, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. I want to make them feel that they are important, that I could at least, you know, clean myself up and make sure that my clothes are decent. And I mean, you know, if you don't have money or are very frugal or stingy, and you don't like to wear fine things or makeup or good clothes, that doesn't bother me at all. But you know, if I see sneakers on a guy, or a woman, in fact, for that matter, and they haven't been jogging or doing sports, or if they didn't ride their bicycle over to see me or something, I just don't find that appropriate. You know, I mean, sneakers are such loser attire, really. You know, it's one thing if it's a Saturday afternoon and you're going to make a date of doing your laundry together, or going to the grocery store, or running some errands. You know, that's different. But otherwise, I've just seen it again and again and again. It's the sign of a loser. And I also look for the color brown. If I see somebody wearing a lot of brown, especially men with their footwear, especially men who wear blue jeans during the day, and they're not cowboys or construction workers, and they're still wearing them after 6 p.m., that sends me a really bad signal. And also men who don't carry a handkerchief, that sends me a really bad signal. You know, every gentleman carries a second clean handkerchief for when she cries. You know, think about it. Okay, bye.
Number in French: 0, 0, 0. 1, 1, 1. 2, 2, 2. 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7, 8, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, 10, 10, 10.
This is Peter Day's World of Business. I'm Peter Day. This week's download edition of Global Business from the BBC World Service comes from the USA. It's all about the Battle of the Business Schools. Two of the best-known business schools in the world stand on either side of the Charles River as it swirls through Greater Boston in Massachusetts. The timeless courtyards of Harvard Business School are south of the river. A kilometre or two further down on the north bank there's the equally imposing Sloan School of Management. It's part of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Both have no difficulty in finding hundreds of students each year who pay tens of thousands of dollars to get their coveted MBA degrees. Many of the Masters of Business Administration who are in training here eventually go on to run huge banks and vast business institutions and famous consultancies all over the world. They become very powerful, and they're going to be paid huge sums of money. But in the wake of business disasters such as the great financial crisis, big questions are being asked about business education in general and about the mighty top business schools in particular. Even Harvard is reassessing its power and influence.
The most dangerous place for any organization is actually when it's at the top, because it runs the risk of not being attuned to, attentive to changes that take place in the environment, almost assuming that changes in the environment will readily translate into continued leadership.
That's the new dean of Harvard Business School who's made some significant changes to this famous curriculum. Nitin Noria was born in India, but he's no newcomer to Harvard. He's been teaching here for 25 years. This is the institution famous for basing much of what it teaches on the 90-year-old case studies method, real company problems on which HBS students spend months of their university lives producing responses to. But now his dean, Nitin Noria, has decided it's time to reduce the reliance on case studies and instead send his MBA students out into the world to study not casebook examples, but real-life problems. A big step. Perhaps it's one prompted by the realization that many outsiders have put at least some of the blame for the financial crisis on the slickness and self-confidence exuded by the MBA graduates with the top business school education. Nitin Noria again.
It turned out that there was a great coincidence that happens sometimes that causes a period of deep introspection for an institution. So for us, it was the financial crisis in which people were saying, in what ways are business institutions and business schools like us responsible? We had to take account of that. So we went out and studied as many of the failure cases as we saw to try and understand what we could do. So the combination of reflecting quite deeply on the crisis, but also this moment of 100 years, which, these are moments when you do have to reflect, led to a lot of rethinking about what the future of the MBA needed to be.
Yeah, because what do you get as an MBA student, as an MBA graduate? You get elite networking, very, very, very important. You get a set of tools and language. You get a lot of case studies in the case of Harvard. You get much more money when you graduate. And you get huge self-confidence, which I think is a very damaging addition to all the good things I've just mentioned.
So I don't believe that. I actually think that there's a big difference between self-confidence and hubris. You always want people to have self-confidence, but there's nothing incompatible between having self-confidence and having humility. I deeply believe that one of the things that we're trying to now do for our students, for example, this global immersion that we've introduced, the field courses that we've introduced, are all examples of saying, look, in the case method, you can sit in the classroom and put yourself in the shoes of the CEO and say, if I was CEO, this is what I would do. And it's easy to allow yourself to believe that just because you said it, you could actually do it. Now we want to actually put you out back into the world and say, let's see
what a muddled, dirty nuisance of a place it is.
Yeah, and teach you a little bit more of that humility.
The idea of these changes is that Harvard Business School will now combine traditional case studies with on-the-spot encounters. HBS uses the acronym FIELD for the process. It stands for Field Immersion Experience for Leadership Development. So how's it going, this big change in business education? 2 HBS students told me about their recent experiences.
My name is Alison Williams and I'm a first-year student at HBS.
And you've got a lot of degrees and stuff.
Yes, I have an undergraduate degree in pharmacology from King's College London and then a PhD from the National Heart and Lung Institute, which is part of Imperial College London.
And this was an itch to actually get things done rather than just be lab-bound and lab-based.
Absolutely. My bosses came in and they said, I've woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning thinking of an experiment to do. We must do it right now. And I was waking up in the middle of the night thinking, why don't we have a therapy for this? Why aren't we commercializing these technologies faster in more leaner ways than traditional big pharma? So one way to perhaps answer these solutions is to train more scientists in business expertise.
That's a nice idea. Your field trip, what did that do for you?
It was amazing. I was in Malaysia. It was my first trip to Asia, and I worked for a company called Malaysia SME, whose core competency was a business newspaper focused on small to medium-sized businesses.
There's no absolute answers in the real world, are there?
Absolutely, and that's something as a scientist I was particularly uncomfortable with because I always wanted more data and more experiments, and I've realised in business you don't have that luxury, so it really does push you over the edge to make a decision, test it, try, iterate, if it doesn't work, pitch it, try something else.
You are?
Sergio Morero, and I am a joint degree student with the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and the Business School.
Where did you go on your field trip?
I was in Chongqing, China. So we were working for a company at CSC. It's a food franchise. And what we were doing is increasing off-peak hour sales.
What do you suggest? How do you do it?
Specific to the local Chongqing, what we ended up recommending for them is they actually thought they were competing with the European and Western food chains when they were actually competing with local street vendors. So we actually told them they should copy what the local street vendors were doing and go out and bring some of their local food.
And you were there for how long?
We were there for 10 days.
That's quite an insight to come up with in 10 days. It's fairly fundamental to their business.
It is. It was amazing to not only dive in and get beyond it's not about what bringing American ideas to them or Western ideas. It's about understanding what they need and coming up with realistic business solutions.
From students getting hands-on experience of the business world, back to Dean Nitin Noria. How does this real-life immersion replace what HBS students used to learn from that case study methodology?
It's not like we took away our case method classes. They're all still going on in parallel.
But you're also introducing things like psychology, group behavior, relationship to new cultures, an understanding of actually advancing an idea and how bruising it may be in the circumstances. You're introducing quite a lot of new stuff that hasn't really been covered at Harvard in the MBA course before, aren't you?
Absolutely. And there's a whole act of doing and being, which includes all these things. How do you relate to people? If your team ends up getting into difficulty, how do you get yourself out of that difficulty? So when you talk to the students and you say, what do we actually learn from this process? The students will talk about how much they learned about what it means to be a good team player, what it means to encounter an unfamiliar country for the first time and have their views change. Like, I thought I knew what an emerging market was, but boy, some of these places feel more modern. I mean, their definition of an emerging market is maybe what my country looked like in the 1950s. So people end up having their worldview in very important ways changed as a result of this experience. And, when they come back from this global immersion, we ask them to do yet another imaginative thing, right? So we're asking them to all build a micro business in the next 14 weeks. So here they're launching an idea that a company had for what it might introduce. Now we're saying, why don't you think about your own idea? The point is to have our people learn what an execution cycle on any idea looks like. What we want to teach them is, even in a very modest scale project, execution is hard.
1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. You're teaching them the perspiration.
Absolutely. And that's what students discover very quickly, that so much of the seduction of entrepreneurship is if I have a great idea, that's the path to riches. And what people realize is, my God, the distance between a great idea and a great product is a big, big distance.
The reality gap, as seen by Dean Nitin Noria. One notable critic of the Harvard Business School experience is the British writer Philip Delves Broughton. He wrote Ahead of the Curve, What They Teach You at Harvard Business School, after completing the 2-year MBA course a few years ago. The book, recounting his experiences, provoked strong reactions from Harvard and from his fellow alumni. So I wondered what Philip Delves Broughton made of the go-out-and-do-it changes HBS is now making in the way it teaches business.
You have to look at what exactly going out and doing it actually means in that context. I think when a real entrepreneur looks at that, they will see nothing more than it's like the Fisher-Price version of entrepreneurship. You sit in a lavishly endowed glass building and play with blocks and claim to be an entrepreneur. That's nothing close to what being a real entrepreneur is like. And I think when real entrepreneurs look at that, that's exactly what they think. That's the kind of flaw in this. Is it just window dressing? Entrepreneurship is very hot right now. And it cuts to the much bigger trends here, which have much more to do than sending a lot of already highly privileged 27-year-olds for a few weeks to India, which is that the nature of general management is changing. The process of outsourcing, which started right at the bottom of the business hierarchy with things like accounting, so payroll services, is gradually inching ever further upwards, eating away at jobs that were once regarded as white-collar and untouchable. And it's getting to the point where the old-fashioned MBA jobs can now be done for much less money elsewhere. And I think you're seeing this in the kinds of salaries MBAs are getting, the industries that are being eaten away. Financial services used to be an absolute safe haven for MBAs. All that's happened there in the past 5 years is jobs have been cut, jobs have been moved overseas, and I think the MBA program's really questioning their worth. That's what this is really about. I don't know whether the field is going to be effective or not, but the underlying neurosis there is the right one, which is we're no longer as relevant and useful as we were 20, 30 years ago, even 6 or 7 years ago, and this process is only accelerating.
But do you think HBS is just tinkering with its courses, do you?
This isn't just about HBS. I think fundamentally, if you were a 23-year-old, a smart 23-year-old, 24-year-old wondering, do I go get an MBA? There are a few issues that are going to leap out at you. One is that this is an enormously expensive degree, and it just seems to be getting more expensive at a rate faster than inflation. And that doesn't include the opportunity cost of this foregone salary. A lot of MBA students, perhaps not at Harvard or Stanford, but a lot of the other schools are really struggling to find jobs. Salaries aren't increasing at a rapid rate. So the debt burden is going up. The rewards at the end of it are going down, and so why would you go? And we all know, and this is everyone will tell you, if you meet older business people, they say, oh, if I was starting out today, I'd head straight to Shanghai or Mumbai, I'd head east, that's where all the growth is. And then the question is, well, why not just go there? Go and get your MBA over there rather than going to an American school and playing some sort of, dress up every now and again and going off on these field trips. Actually go to Tsinghua, go to a business school in India, make your networks there. If that's genuinely where you believe growth is, then that's where you should go. That's the kind of existential problem that all these Western MBA programs face. Is they're too expensive, they're not particularly useful in the way they were. And so all you're left with is these kind of nebulous things like networks and clubs and who you meet. And that's just pure elitism. That's the problem they face.
Strong reservations from Philip Delves Broughton, author of What They Teach You at Harvard Business School. This is Global Business from the BBC World Service. I'm Peter Day, this week hearing about two famous business school rivals only a kilometre or two apart in Greater Boston, USA. Now let's take a journey down the river to that other famous institution, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The MIT Sloan School of Management is named after one of the greatest American management geniuses, Alfred P. Sloan, the architect of General Motors. The Sloan School is based in a university bursting with entrepreneurial and technology talent, but it is also finding ways of bringing entrepreneurship to the fore as part of its MBA experience. In the Sloan School lobby, I encountered a huge world map showing where students have carried out projects, explained by MIT's Paul Denning. There's a wall in the main building at the Sloan School demonstrating how out in the world you are.
Right. The students want to work on these projects because it does give them on-the-ground, hands-on experience in solving a major problem in a business, something that they're here to actually learn how to do.
So these are developing world problems they're trying to find some kind of solutions for. What kind of things?
For instance, a project in Colombia developing eco-friendly alternatives for home and personal care products. In Kenya, improving management of one of Kenya's first rural hospices. The Global Health Delivery Project in South Africa, increasing access to vital educational materials for youth in 900 sites across the country. India, increasing the serving of healthy meals to more than 5 million school children.
Now, these are projects worked on by who?
By our students, by our MBAs.
And it's called a lab because everything at MIT is some kind of lab. This is the Global
Entrepreneurship Laboratory. And there's variations of that, which can be the Global Health Delivery Lab, India Lab, China Lab. Everything has a lab attached to it because that's what students at MIT do. They analyze things within a laboratory mind frame, and then they try to come up with solutions to what the problems are.
The Sloan School didn't get its name until 1950, but its origins in engineering administration make it only slightly younger than Harvard Business School. It'll be celebrating its centenary next year. So how is Sloan responding to big changes in the 21st century business world? David Schmidtlein is the Sloan School Dean.
The role of innovation, small companies, entrepreneurial companies is probably the largest difference in the way the school operates now. But another big difference is the way we teach students through project-based learning on a global scale. Giving them opportunities to pull and push levers in organizations is a very different way to learn. It's different from cases. It's different from lectures. Over the last 20 years, that's really transformed the experience here.
Do you teach entrepreneurship?
We create an environment where someone who wants to learn to be a successful entrepreneur can.
Because again, it slightly sticks in the craw that business schools are now rather interested in teaching or getting involved with entrepreneurship, and yet surely the great entrepreneurs don't need much of a business school background and haven't had it in the past.
Certainly some people can be successful entrepreneurs without a business school background. No one should argue that point. If you want to be an entrepreneur, certainly knowing, I think, a bit of accounting, marketing, how customers are likely to respond to a new product, finance to create the foundation for a new venture, those things can be valuable. But even beyond all of that, think about what kind of entrepreneur you want to be. Do you want to be an entrepreneur who has an idea and early on sells out to a big firm? Or do you want to be an entrepreneur who builds a company? If you want to build a company, you have to know how to manage people. Most individuals, through instinct alone, run aground on the rocks on the issues of managing people.
David Schmidtlein, Dean of the Sloan School of Management at MIT. I wonder what Philip Dells Broughton, Harvard Business School graduate and critic, made of the rival institution just down the river.
MIT, the Sloan School was always slightly the ugly sister to Harvard, but I think that's changed in recent years. They've really got ahead in terms of marrying all the other things that are going on at MIT, whether it's in the engineering school, computer science, biotech, the media lab, and really opened the doors of the business school and said, all of you lot, if you want to commercialize what you're doing, we'll help you do that. And for the business school students, it gives them access to smart people with great ideas that they can build businesses around. Whereas the Harvard Business School was very much an island unto itself. It didn't have deep relationships with the rest of Harvard University. And I think now they're trying to stoke that, but they're late in the game on this. And I think MIT has done a much better job. And I think you're seeing that. If you're an ambitious engineer who wants to build a business, Sloan would make a lot more sense in terms of having those two cultures actually married in one place. I hear that again and again.
What do current Sloan School students feel about what they're learning there? Part of an institution, MIT, better known for visionary science and technology than business graduates. I asked some of them, starting with Omid Zadakpour from Chile and Ecuador, a second-year MBA student with a background in software.
Currently, I'm trying to start a company that's aiming to help with the discoverability of people based on the topics that they research and based on the departments that they work in, based on their hobbies, based on where they're from. So you could very easily find someone at MIT that's from Brazil, does yoga, is gluten-free, and is researching material science.
A sort of Facebook for MIT, is it?
Yeah, you could think about Facebook, but with very specific MIT qualities.
When did you think up this idea? During your MBA study?
I came to MIT to start something, and the first problem you see is you can't find people. I mean, specific people. So then I started programming it. I showed it to some students, some professors. It kind of evolved with the feedback that I got, and it became what it is. But I think MIT in particular focuses on these big engineering problems. And from an engineer, that's very exciting to be able to study business, but to then be able to work with the engineers here as well.
It's worth the money, is it? It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And it's even riskier when you're trying to start a company. For me, it's more about impact, and you just leave the money thought aside. You just try to ignore that as much as you can.
Hi, I'm Lucy Zhao. I'm born in Beijing and raised in Canada. I'm actually here at MIT doing a degree in Masters of Science in Management Studies. It's a post-MBA, it's a one-year degree.
Why did you apply to Sloan in particular?
Well, Sloan in particular because of this particular program. This one-year program that I'm in actually has a prerequisite of you have to get your Master's in Business degree outside of the U.S., so I went outside the U.S.
This was designed for you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was like the perfect...
You went to get your degree with this course in mind?
Yes, I did. It's like 2-3 years in the making, but in essence, I wanted that international experience. I wanted to go back to China, go back to my roots, and then come here to really get into entrepreneurship, which I did.
Why do you want to be an entrepreneur?
I think it's just that drive that you have, that every effort that you put in is for some greater end goal in your life. And a lot of the times when I worked for other corporations, and I did that for about 3.5 years, it just didn't seem like I had a lot of value to give. And with startups, you're working in small teams of 2 to 4, and you're very, very collaborative. Everything that goes into your work, you can really feel the result of it. And that's a complete rush on its own, I think.
And I wouldn't mind being rich either.
Yeah, that's a nice bonus, I think, on top of that.
How about that feeling that you can pin at least part of the blame for the financial crisis on how business schools teach and the self-confidence they instill in their MBA graduates? I put my reservations to David Schmidtlein, the Sloan School Dean.
It's a valid concern for all programs and a valid criticism for some. Hubris is an issue everywhere. It's an issue in the public sector. It's an issue in the elite managerial class. How does an organization that tries to educate individuals help guard against hubris? Help guard against the sense that you know more than you do? One of the things you can do is talk about how much you know and how much you don't know. Another thing you can do is put people in situations that overwhelm them and lead them to judge whether they know what they're doing or don't know what they're doing. And a third thing you can do is put them inside an organization where they know that they're not the smartest person on campus. They're not even in the 100 smartest people on campus. Those are the math majors over in the other part of MIT. But this issue that you raise is one that we worry about.
And ethics and all that, you got time to teach that, sending all these people out all the time?
We do ethics modules as our peer schools do. I have to say, in that realm of ethics, I think it's important to help give people a language to use around a moral compass that we certainly hope that they bring with them. If anybody has an educational program for 28-year-old people, if that 28-year-old is a lying liar who lies, I don't know what you're going to do in an ethics course to change that. We work very hard to try to screen out of our program people who are ethically challenged coming in. That's not a perfect science itself. But for people who do have a compass, we help them give voice to it.
The big question for the Harvard MBA and author Philip Delves Broughton. Does he think that people pondering their career prospects should go for a business school education?
There was a video that came out in the past couple of weeks, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people talking about the best thing you could do is learn to code. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's going to be an enormous gap, a need for developers. If I was someone wanting to set up a business, the vast majority of new businesses these days have a huge technology component. The first thing I'd want to learn about would be technology, rather than accounting or finance or any MBA skills. That's what I want to learn about first. Then would I go and get a Harvard MBA? I'd have a hard look at the cost of this thing. There are so many options now that just didn't exist, even 5 or 10 years ago. And you can put together a really first-rate business education for yourself at a fraction of the cost, get to know the right people, move to the right place. That alternative exists now in a way it didn't until very, very recently. And I think that's what I'd advise any smart person to do.
In this highly competitive field, how does the Dean of the MIT Sloan School view the evolution of Harvard Business School just across the river?
We're very proud of Harvard Business School's Dean, Nitin Noria, who's an MIT Sloan School alum. His PhD is from Sloan.
But otherwise, deep rivalry?
Certainly we compete with each other for students, we compete with each other for faculty, but more fundamentally, it's important for America and I think for the world that there be hubs of innovation that are lively, that are active, and that are substantial in scale. And when we think about the Boston region more broadly, I want Harvard Business School to do well in the realms of innovation and entrepreneurship because we all benefit when the ecosystem here is strong.
There's a terrific rivalry among the leading business schools to hire the most prominent professors and to be close to the top of the much-followed annual ranking tables, in which the pay graduates can command is heavily weighted. On the Financial Times 2013 Global MBA table, Harvard is ranked number 1 and MIT Sloan number 9. The highest-ranked non-American institution is the London Business School. It's number 4. I asked Dean Nitin Noria at Harvard if league table pressure skewed the way they actually ran their institutions.
As often happens when you have competition, what used to be innovative in the past becomes commoditized very quickly. That's the nature of what competition does. And so I believe that the base of business education is rapidly getting commoditized. If all you teach people is the conceptual vocabulary, the language of business. There was a time when Harvard Business School was amongst the few places where you could do that, and so that was a distinctive skill to just do. Now everybody teaches cases, everybody can teach the language of business. When I became dean, I felt that we could not just afford to do business as usual. The landscape is more competitive, the opportunities are more demanding, our students will need to be better prepared, and we have to do more to prepare them and to continue to have people believe that coming to Harvard Business School provides you the best, most distinctive education relative to other alternatives, which are sometimes cheaper and sometimes can be done part-time. That's the game that I think everybody who's in management education has to in some ways play. And as the leader in the field, we have to raise the game for ourselves and for others.
You want to be just like MIT?
I came from MIT. I want to be better than them.
Dean Nitin Noria of Harvard Business School, one of the formidable and expensive places which young people struggle to get into in order to create career paths and learn more about business. Of course, they could always stay at home and listen to this program, but maybe it wouldn't be quite the same thing.